So next topic we have to discuss. So already we have discussed about the cloud computing, right? So today we'll be discussing about what? We'll be discussing about the what are the different types of cloud computing models. Okay. So when you're talking about cloud computing models, there are two types of cloud computing models. That is service model as well as access agent. No, you don't want to access in agent. It's fine. There is service model and one is deployment model. Okay, so we'll discuss what is a service model first. Okay, so when you're talking about a service model, inside the service model, you'll be having what? IS, PaaS, SaaS. Okay, so imagine you're going to start a company. Okay, so when you're going to start a company, you have to make an application, data, runtime, middleware, operating system, virtualization, server, storage, networking. So these kind of things should be maintained by whom? These everything should be maintained by whom? By you. If you're starting a company, you have to maintain these things, right? So if my organization is migrating towards a cloud, so they'll be having IS, PaaS, as well as SaaS. Okay. So what happens is that when you're using IS, application, data, runtime, middleware, operating system. Okay. So these things will be managed by you. Existing things like virtualization, server, storage, networking will be managed by the provider. Okay. But when you're talking about PaaS, only application and data should be managed by you. Existing things like runtime, middleware, operating system, virtualization, server, storage, networking will be managed by the provider. But when you're talking about SaaS, everything is maintained by whom? By the provider. So the main difference between the price range and everything, on-premises will be having much more payment, right? For example, what may be the reason why it is having a higher payment? Okay, everything should be taken by the company itself, right? Or otherwise, I have to maintain these things and everything. So when my company is migrating towards the cloud means IS is having less payment. Okay, why? Because 5 deployment stages done by whom? By the you. Existing things is done by 4 things is only done by the provider. So the price will be less. But when you're talking about PaaS, application data is managed by you and existing things is managed by the provider. So the price will be little bit higher. Okay. But when you're talking about, when you're comparing IS and PaaS, SaaS is having much more higher payment. Why? Because everything is handled by whom? By the provider. So the payment level will be higher. So when you're talking about service model, IS stands for infrastructure as a service. So the providers are managing the server, storage, networking, and customer use their OS to deploy their application. Then customer only pay for the usage of the hardware. So I've already told you, if there is 200 plus services, okay, inside that 200 plus services, if you're using 10 services, for the 10 services only you have to pay. Right. For existing things, you don't want to pay any amount. So for the usage only, you have to pay for it. And PaaS makes it a platform as a service. Customer only manage the applications and data, and all other things is managed by whom? By the provider. But when you're talking about SaaS, software as a service, that is, providers are managing everything. Customer don't want to worry about anything. So it will be automatically done by whom? By the provider itself. So IS is mainly used by AWS. Okay, PaaS is mainly used by Azure, and SaaS is mainly used by Microsoft 365. Okay. So inside this terms and condition, we'll be discussing these things and everything later. Okay, we'll be, for example, while deploying, you'll be understanding these things and everything. So, but when you're talking about deployment model, okay, so in deployment model, you'll be having public, private, and hybrid. Okay, so these are the definition. Okay, so when you're talking about a public, so it is fully managed by whom? By the provider. Imagine Amazon. So Amazon is a public cloud, so everyone can access, right? So inside their data center, you'll be storing their datas and everything, right? So with the help of a public, with the help of internet also, they can easily access. But when you're talking about private, okay, when you're talking about a private, imagine you're going, means imagine there is an organization. Okay. So who are having permission to access inside the organization only can access. So for example, imagine this is a messenger. So everyone can access inside the messenger. Huh? Can everyone can access inside the messenger? No, right? But because it's a private. So who are having the permission only they can access. So who are not having the permission, they cannot access. So data are stored in their data center. So inside the private organization, there will be data. So inside the data center, you will be storing all the data. And the maintenance cost is very high. Why? Because we have to maintain the data centers and everything. So data centers and everything. So what happens if anything happens to this data center, you have to recover from another data center, right? So for that also you have to build the data center. So the payment level will be higher. But when you're talking about hybrid, it's a combination of public as well as the private. Okay, it's a combination of private and public. So when a private organization is migrating towards a cloud means it reduces the pain and cost. Okay, it reduces the pain as well as the cost. So that's why it is called as hybrid cloud. So these are the two types of models. That is service model and deployment model. Okay. So in this, do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts in this? No doubts, right? So next, we are going to discuss what is AWS. Okay, we are going to discuss what is AWS. So do you know what is the full form of AWS? Dot Web Service. So do you know who is the author of Amazon Web Service? Do you know who's the author? Amazon is the author. Okay. So today we'll be discussing what is AWS, what is history of AWS, why most of the companies are using AWS and service in AWS. So these are the things we'll be discussing today. Okay. So right now what I'm going to do is we'll discuss what is AWS. Okay. So what is AWS? So AWS is a global and most secure cloud computing platform that is provided by the Amazon. So who's the author? Amazon is the author, right? So AWS is a global and most secure cloud computing platform that is provided by the Amazon. So AWS provide computing power, database, networking, storage, and much more, right? So in AWS provide 200 plus services. Okay, so what are the different types of cloud computing providers? AWS, Azure, GCP, then IBM, Oracle, etc. Right? So among these cloud computing providers, AWS is having 200 plus services. And currently, AWS is the most trending platform that is owned by 45%, right? So it is not 45, it will be increased. Okay. So when you're talking about the history of AWS, okay. So when you're talking about history of AWS was launched on 2002. So it was launched in 2002. In 2006, they launched cloud products. And in 2012, they hold a customer event. So after customer events and everything, they achieve 4.6 billions. It is not a less amount. It's a having huge amount, right? So in 2016, they released Snowball and Snow Family. Okay. So we'll discuss Snowball and Snow Family. Okay. So when you're discussing about Snow Family, it's a means when you're discussing about Snowball and Snow Mobile, it's called as Snow Family. Okay, so inside this family, you will be having phone, ball, as well as mobile. Okay, so these things will be discussed in S3. Okay, it's like a storage. Okay, it's like a storage. It's a physical server. It is a physical server. So that physical server is given by whom? By the provider. Okay, and in 2019, They offers 100 plus cloud service. In same 2019, they offers 200 plus services also. So this is a history of AWS. Okay. So why most of the companies are using AWS? First one is what? Billing. So if there is 200 plus services, if you're using 10 services, for the 10 services only, you have to pay. Existing things you don't want to pay. And next is easy sign up. Easy sign up means with the help of username as well as the password. So with the help of username and password, you can easily access. So there is no restriction. And it is easy to use. It is very flexible, right? And trusted advisor. So who is the author? Amazon. Amazon is the author. So it is very trusted. Why? Because not only AWS, it is having e-commerce transaction is there. Then online shopping is there. Like much more service and products it has been implemented, right? So it is very trusted advisor. And second one means next point is data privacy. So you know what is data privacy? So for example, imagine you're using WhatsApp. Okay. If you're using WhatsApp, imagine you're sending a message. Okay, you're sending a message. So if I'm sending a message, will that message will goes to everyone? No. What are the message you're sending to a person, to that particular person only it will receive, right? So the data is privacy. Like same thing is happening there inside the AWS also. And also provide more services. That means 200 plus services has been given by whom? Has been given by the Amazon provider. Okay. And you can say 31 regions and 99. Okay, it is not 31 and it is not 99. Okay, we'll discuss these things. Okay. So when you're talking about regions and when you're talking about availability zone, do you know what is regions and availability zone? Do you know what is regions and availability zone? Okay, so when you're talking about a region, okay. Okay, so when you're talking about a region, okay, when you're talking about a region is called as data center. We won't call it as a data center. We'll be calling as a region. Okay. If you're having more than one data center, okay. If you're having more than one data center, it's called as availability zone. So the minimum availability zone is 1 and maximum is 3. So you can see 3 availability zone. Same like a data center. If anything happens to this data center, it will recover from another data center. So that is called as availability zone. So I told it's not 30, it is not 31 and it is not 99. Okay, so I'll give the update version also. Okay, before that, we'll discuss what is scalability. Scalability means scale up and down. Right, scale up and scale down. That is called scalability. So when you're talking about regions and availability zone, okay. So when you're talking about regions and availability zone, there is a documentation. Okay. So when you're talking about the documentation, each and every cloud providers, that is Azure is there, AWS is there, GCP is there, IBM is there. Like that way, there are different types of cloud computing providers are there. So when you're talking about these cloud providers, they'll be having their own documentation. Okay. So right now we're discussing about AWS, right? So AWS also will be having their own document. So with the help of this document, what is the benefit is that, for example, you'll be getting updated version or updated theoretical versions and everything. For example, imagine you're using ChatGPT or you're using Google to get more information. Maybe it may be correct, maybe it not be correct, right? In case of Google Map, they'll tell you to go forward, but there will be a pond, right? There will be a lake, so you can't go, right? So maybe there will be a technical issue, there will be error and everything. Same can be done, same thing will be done inside the theoretical means in Google also. Maybe wrong information can be given. But in order to avoid that, if you're looking documentation, you'll be getting detailed records. Not detailed records, you'll be getting all the information, updated information. So everything can be will be seen inside the where inside the documentation, inside the AWS documentation. Okay. So to open this documentation, it is very easy. Okay. So when you go to the Google, so when you search for AWS console, you know how to access, right? So when you go to the AWS management console, You can see documentation. Can you see documentation here? So when you click on documentation, you can see browser all documentation. Okay. So first service, we are going to teach you what is IAM. So if you want to know about IAM, you can search for the IAM and everything. So you get all the information of IAM. So right now I want to search about the how many regions and how many adaptive zone currently I am having, presently I am having. To do that, I'm searching global. I'm searching global infrastructure. Okay, so when you search global infrastructure, you can see you can see number of options will be given. So you can see number of options, right? So from there you'll search for the global infrastructure. So if you're having time, you can read these things and everything. Okay, what is the difference between region? What is the difference between adaptive zones and everything? They are telling. So when you click on AWS global infrastructure, can you see AWS global infrastructure? You can see 37 launched regions is there, as well as how many adaptive zone is there? There are 117 availability. So this is an update one. So if the interviewers ask me how many regions is updated, how many adaptive zone is updated, if you want to get if you want to tell the updates, correct updates means you can check it through where inside the AWS documentation. So AWS documentation is totally free. Okay. If you want to know about the theoretical or if you want to know about the practical, there won't be any recording videos or anything. You can, if you want to read it, you can read it from here. Everything will be there. Okay. So you see in map. So some of things in blue color and some of in red color, right? So that is regions which is already existing in this color is in blue in color. So coming soon means already means it should be implement or it should be deployed. So in India, we are having in Hyderabad and we are having in Mumbai. So it was launched in 2016 and it was launched in 2022. So in 2025, in Jan, it was launched in Mexico. So you can get all the updates version. So in when you're talking about this, in Chile is there and German is there, then South Arabia is there. So in 3 places, it should be implemented. Okay, like that way, if you want to know about the details and everything, you can click it from here also. So this is the documentation side. Okay, so among these services, so how many services there? How many services has been implemented by AWS? 200, right? So there are 200 plus services. So among them 200 plus services, we'll be discussing what is EC2, what is RDS, S3, Lambda, CloudFront, VPC, EBS, SNS, Glaciers, Autoscaling, IAM, SQS, Elastic Beanstalk, then EFS, then CloudWatch, then Inspector. So these many things. This is the oldest, means this is a what? Oldest document. Okay. So when you, I've already placed some of the, I mean, you can see I've already placed some of the things over there. Can you see? In a board means in a wall we have placed the syllabus and everything. So you're having 30 plus services. 30 plus AWS services you'll be learning. So in that you'll be learning IAM, EC2, VPC. VPC is not here. So VPC, then load balancer, Elastic Beanstalk, like that with many services there. So up to 30 plus services will be discussed. That is a very important service for the solution architect. Okay. So do you have any doubts regarding this? So you want notes, right? So what are the notes you want? Have you written yesterday's note? You can write what is cloud computing. And if you have you written cloud computing? Yes, ma'am. Yes, right. Advantage. It's over. Okay, you can write service model. So guys, you're going tomorrow, right? To meeting. So by Monday you'll be reaching. So that's why I'm making a little bit slow. So tomorrow we'll start with first service. If I continue with today, means what happens is that tomorrow I need to take the practical. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you guys to write these notes. So tomorrow I'll take the theoretical. Okay, so once the theoretical is over, Monday we'll start with the practical. Okay, so everyone can practice. Okay, so you can write this one. 𝗙𝘂𝗋𝗃. If you want, you can try this one. Okay. Yeah, sorry. You are finished. Done. May not get no.
Hmm? Private
Done. Done. Your batch number is 26. You are in batch 6 number 22. Can you log in this? Turn on. And smaller. That guys. Turn on. Can you write this? Then trading. Trending means, for example, they have. So, for example, that is, I already told it's an all documentation, right? So, currently, AWS is the most trending. For example, first position is coming. In the first position is coming with the AWS, means it's coming in cloud is it's AWS. Second position is coming Azure. So, like that, at the percentage level, it's showing. That's all. Done. Done, right? You don't try this. You can try this one. Done. Can you go through that documentation? I showed you how to open the documentation and everything, right? So instead of that, just I will written 31 only. 37? Okay. So can you go through the documentation? You can go through in documentation phone or you can go through the documentation in lab words. It's up to you.